So my first question from someone who is not in the fireside chats is with Mark Robinson, who actually is a producer, but has directed and released 3 feature films worldwide with Lionsgate. Can we get a high five with that? That is one incredible. And he will actually be directing the winning script. So get to know him, let him know your face, because he's going to be the director for your project with Get It Made. So my first question is directed to you, Mark Robinson. What is the most memorable experience of doing whatever it took to get a movie made? Like where you just went above and beyond, even above and beyond your comfort zone, or whatever you thought you needed to do to get your project through that finish line. What does that look like?
That's a good question. I mean, I think anyone here who's worked in film knows that you do whatever you can. I think with my first film, I had written a script when I was about 18, 19, and I spent the next 3 years going out and getting financing for it. And I think, I was bussing tables and waiting tables and doing all the stuff that we do in order to, pay the bills. But it was sitting down in living rooms with people who may or may not have money. And I'd gone out and shot a proof of concept, like a teaser, and sitting down and getting a lot of no's, tons of no's. And every once in a while, someone would say, hold on just 1 second. And they go upstairs, and one guy specifically, he was a dentist, who told me his business was not doing well, but apparently it was. He went upstairs, and he came back down with paper bags full of money. And it was a good night. Yes, and there were some random teeth. Yeah, there's all sorts of good stuff in there. But it paid for it got the ball rolling, and every meeting after that was a little easier, because I think once you start to get momentum, once you have people who believe in you, you start believing in yourself more, and the people you're talking to pick up on that, and they also see that, oh, you've already got 15% of your budget, 20% of your budget, 50% of your budget. And it was all private financing. And as a kid, I didn't know a lot about business. I knew I wanted to make movies. My dad was a doctor, and he was my partner in this, and we started going to his colleagues. We started going to family friends. We started going to their family friends, and if they invested, they would want to share it. And one thing that I would really recommend is having, for those of you who are working on getting something off the ground, is having something to show that is going to capture their attention, almost an excuse to sit down with them. Because I think, if I want you to invest in my movie is not a good opener. Because, everyone's wary of that kind of thing. But if you inspire them with something and say that you have an opportunity, then you're out talking to people about something, and this is something that maybe they are going to be interested in. And obviously have all your ducks in a row with your business plan and maybe an LLC that you're selling investment shares in, however it's structured. That usually, so I guess to answer your question, it's like a whole circle, but spending 3 years in living rooms, getting a lot of no's, I guess, to get those handful of yeses that started to generate more yeses and more people. And we had a gentleman that came in who had made his money with drill bits. He designed a patent and he came in for a good portion, and we made the movie and it sold to Lionsgate. I mean, I think that it's, you just work your circle. Things like this, people know people, and those people that have some link to you are likely going to be more interested than someone you meet off the street. So those types of relationships, they kind of spiderweb out, but you just keep working your circle, and the people that you tell about what you're doing, the people that you inspire may say, hey, I've got this guy who's, maybe right for you. And what we found is that oftentimes the people that you wouldn't suspect, like this dentist, would invest or even have the money to invest, might surprise you.
Well, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Mark was saying. I mean, I totally agree. I think that, like I said, I'm not the producer who goes out and raises money, but I have been the guy who goes out and gets favors, if that makes sense. So you have to offer them something back. You can't just say, I need some money, for my movie. You have to say, I need some money for my movie, and we'll give you this, or we'll do this for you. They need to feel like there's something else behind it. Well, you always start with a credit, which I always suggest to most filmmakers, start off with an associate producer credit, because we all know I'm giving it away. It don't mean shit. So it doesn't. Sorry. I meet people all the time, and they're like, "Oh, I'm an associate producer." I'm like, "So how much money did you give them? What'd you do?" It doesn't really mean anything. So it's a thank you. Is really what it is. It's like, you agree? You know what I mean? So that's one thing. The other thing is, like I said, if you could find ways to get production value out of it, maybe there's a scene that takes place in a dentist's office. We see his logo up there, stuff like that. So I'm always trying to be the guy in the projects that I do where we get production value all the time. So right. It's when you use your resources, you'll figure out there's things that you guys have you didn't realize you had, but most people don't ask, and if you ask, you receive. You feel me?
My girl Nadine. She's the actor on this panel. So we live in a very I would say a DIY generation, do it yourself, But I meet a lot of actors who are like, oh, no one's booking me, no one's putting me on their film, but I think there's an importance to creating your own content, even as an actress or an actor, going out there and making your own, shooting your own, writing your own. So can you talk about the importance of just doing it yourself?
And I think it's necessary now. A lot of the shows that we like to watch that are new and up and coming is because someone has created something that they can show, like he said before, that they can show and they can, someone can see a smaller version of it. I will say this, as an actor, even starting out, I would rather see 15 minutes of something that you have put your heart into that I can get behind than to see an hour and a half of something that looks like you rushed through it. You didn't take your time. I'm more than likely to try to see how I can get on with to see how I can maneuver and help you the best I can if you believe in the quality of what you're doing. I would rather see 5 minutes than 15 minutes. If you can't afford 15 minutes at your very best, I don't want to see it. I'm not going to believe it. I'm not going to want to stand there because I'm wondering if you can do this with 15 minutes, what is an hour and 40 going to look like? And, there's just some things that people, like I said before, there's some things on my IMDb that you're like, okay, well, I'm just not going to just say I did this. You're going to use this name. And, we have all deleted. I have deleted. You will never find it. But, and money, I know we're in a state and a job where people look for money. But the people that I've seen that have been successful never went for the money. They went for the passion. Yep. And the money will follow. Never chase the dollar. I know that's hard to say because I'm not there. But I cannot tell you how important it is to see something because people look, we talk, actors talk. I have had actors that have told me, don't do this, don't even work with that person, don't even begin to, because we talk. We want to know who is that, that producer or who is this, and there's a lot of producers that think that they want to be directors and writers and you're like, that's not at all what you do. But, we talk, we do, and being indie doesn't make it, that we don't want to become involved. I was just talking to the gentleman here and saying indie is like that sweet place that you can find stuff that no one else in a feature film may let you do. But I can go into indie and go, oh my goodness, this is the passion project I've been looking for. Sometimes indie is the place that you find that thing that reminds you of why you do it. You know what I mean?
It's also where you get to show Hollywood the other side of you.
That they don't let you do. Exactly. Absolutely. And there's so many good examples of that where people have created things that you go, wow, people watch that. I mean, especially with streaming and social media now, there are TV shows that are just online and that's it. and people log on and they watch. And so we're at a point where you can't say what you can't do, because there's always a way to do it. You just have to want it, not even bad enough, but want it enough to give it your very best. If you show up to your day job every day doing your very best, why not do it for the thing that you love the most, you know?
I love what you said, especially at the end there. I feel so empowered. Just adding to that, as a up-and-coming director, especially as a female director, having a proof of concept is so important. And like Nadine was saying, it doesn't have to be 15 minutes. You don't have to make a feature, but if you can make 5 minutes about something that you're passionate about, that shows your vision, that shows like what you want to make as a director, what you have to offer, that goes such a long way. You're gonna have to figure it out yourself, and it's not easy. So, like everyone here on this panel has sort of conveyed, like, it takes a lot of work and you have to really have your heart in it. So, like, it is not free, no. I mean, my first, short film I shot in one day for $1,300 that I paid for myself. Matt covered the production insurance for it. Yeah, $1,300. I mean, I ended up getting hooked up with a DP from Modern Family and Fresh Off the Boat, who was bored of doing those shows. And I showed him my script, and he was into it, and he decided he was in, and he shot it for free, and he got an Alexa, and he showed up, and he brought a whole G&E team, and we made it happen. And it's a 10-minute short, and it's because I was passionate about it, and I started talking to people about it and telling them what I wanted to do, and before you know it, I got connected with people that would help me make it happen. I also do direct commercials, which helps. So I hire people in paid positions very often. So, this is one time that people were willing to do a favor for me, that I felt comfortable just saying, like, hey, like, I'll pay you $20 for expendables for sound, but, like, can you just work this one day for me? And but I know those people from working my way up hard. I felt very uncomfortable having to ask for favors. I don't like doing that, but you don't know if they're going to say yes unless you ask. So.
Yeah.
And I'll just even on that, as an actor myself, I've been doing martial arts for the past year at a dojo that director David Ayer co-owns, and after a year, I finally was like, well, I haven't been cast in any action projects yet, and I want to get some footage out, since, like, I went in for an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing, and I was like, I have footage of me fighting, but I don't have any, like, dialogue, costume, in-scene, like, everything. So I put down $3,000 of my money. It took me about 3.5 months from beginning to end. But from that, Hayabusa, which is a really amazing boxing company, heard about me and my story. They had me be a part of their most recent boxing campaign. They shot a promo on my life. And I guess my story is, I thought I was running away with a band, and they ended up being human traffickers in Europe, drugged me, tried to kidnap me. And I escaped. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus Christ. And before really anything bad happened, other than them really breaking in my legs. So I always knew, like, God was going to make me a hero for other people. And it wasn't until this past year that I really, like, another crazy scam where people are scamming people out right now, faking people's kidnappings and trying to get money from their families. That happened to my family. And it pushed me to really look at my PTSD and my trauma and realize I wasn't doing anything about it. So I got into martial arts. And because I was willing to invest in myself and invest in my dream of, I knew I was going to be a hero for others, but I hadn't done any action work. I hadn't done any martial arts. I hadn't done anything to help my trauma. And now, fast forward a year later, put in $3,000 for this action project. I mean, it's gotten in front of David Ayer. I now am in another fight action choreography place, and now, I have a meeting with Atlas Entertainment, who just produced Wonder Woman and Justice League because they're looking to develop content, and I have an amazing hero story. And I've already, from another panel we did, working with other writers, reached out to them and have just been telling my story and having people get behind me. And so, I can't always pay people, but I have a story that I'm passionate about. I have me that I'm passionate about. And yes, so much so that I was willing to go in debt $3,000 just to make an action short. I rally people to get behind me and my cause because I believe in me and my cause. Yeah. So it's like when you have that, when you're so willing to go into debt for yourself, other people see you make that risk and they're willing to say, oh, if she's willing to go, above and beyond for that.
Good decision with that investment.
Absolutely. 100.
Who are you investing with?
100%. 100%. So, and I even have friends who just were stunting for the Black Panther and a whole bunch of stunt people, and they actually got together and made an action series because they no longer wanted to be stunt people for the leading superheroes. They wanted to be on camera with their face on camera. They developed a action series, and now it has millions of views on YouTube, and Comic-Con just asked them to come speak at their panel. And they were all on the same playing field, so it's all of you working with all of you. And it's just about that, It's just about finding people who believe in you.
I know we're going to go into it, but I will also tell you that there's so many talented people that are still on set that are in the cast and crew. You all know if you've ever worked on a TV show, everyone does something else, and then they have a passion. We have, PAs that are writers that will sometimes, I'll ask them how they're doing, and all of a sudden I hear a script and go, hey, can you send me that? I'd love to read it. Or I want to do, the table reading with that. We had one of our editors turn out to be one of our directors. Like, everyone is doing something else. So I would tell you, like she said, learn who's on your sets if you're there, who you're working with, because you don't know who has a passion that just wants to help you because they like you or they see what's going on, or you told them something and go, wait a minute, that sounds kind of cool. I don't mind, getting in and doing, and going, and you just never know who or who knows something that you could know, So yeah, I would say that. Get to know the people around you. The world is bigger than your circle, and I've been here 8 months, and I've met some pretty incredible people, and I've never shied away from going, if I don't care for something, I will tell you, what, this might not be for me. But you never know, because I tell all the people that at least asked about acting, I say, well, I'm an actor for the rest of my life, so there's no need for me to make it right now. Like, I don't have to make it right now, because I'm going to do it for the rest of my life, So
I made a short film. I was 3-4 features in. I was in the middle of my career, and I had started with a short film that the Disney Channel bought for like no money back in the 80s when they got started, and that launched my career. And I was on this show. I was doing guys making money. I said, you know what? I'm gonna do something that I'm not doing anymore, which is just a passion project. And I wrote this Western about an Indian boy and a cavalryman, and it was Last Stand. It was called Last Stand, and that film changed the course of my career. Everybody read that script, and it was a short, and they wanted to be a part of it because it had this message of hope and peace. And there was no money for it. We were getting donations of short ends. We were still shooting film then. Borrowing cameras from short ends. We're short ends. Yeah, nobody knows what short ends anymore, right?
Mark knows what short ends are.
But short ends are like when you have like 1,000-foot roll of film, or used to have 1,000-foot roll of film.
When you shot on film.
When you shot on film, and you'd roll down, and then there would be like, oh, we're gonna do another take, but that film's gonna run out in the middle of the take. They just break it off, and you'd have a few hundred feet left, and they put it all in these little cans, and then you'd buy these things up, and then you'd figure out your takes, to use these little pieces of film. And we were shooting, Panavision 35s and stuff, and I couldn't afford the cameras. And I literally went over to Panavision, to the woman who dealt with the cameras and lenses, and said, I'll show you my script, and if you don't cry, you don't have to give me the cameras. And she cried, and she gave us all the Panavisions and all the lens kits for free on that film. So it's that kind of stuff, It was like I was going around begging for short ends, getting people to cry over the script for the cameras and desperation. And then like everyone's like, well, you're not gonna be able to cast this. The lead's a 12-year-old Lakota boy. And I was like, okay, we got to find a 12-year-old Lakota boy. So I started going to powwows all over Southern California. And I literally found this kid on a playground in the middle of the desert out at a reservation. And his dad came up to me like a week before we were going to start shooting. And he was this amazing little actor. And when I showed the tape to another actor by the name of Jason London, who's an established actor, he was like, I gotta play this guy opposite him. And I got this other established actor to be in the movie. And we went out and shot it for like a week, and it won a whole bunch of stuff and reinvigorated it really at that point. And I started doing features again after 10 years of not doing a feature, and doing all this television, and got me back, inspired me again, because I had to do like a reset on my life. I was making money.
It's never over.
It's never. It's like, oh, I've arrived. Well, I don't ever want to arrive. I want to keep coming. So you keep reinventing yourself. Yeah. So keep always reinventing yourself and challenging, because you get stale, and then you wake up one morning and realize you're directing the same scene you directed last week. And wait, didn't we already do this on this show? It's like, and I was like, yeah, we did, but people like it, so you keep coming back. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I did that short, and it changed my life. 22-year-old me would have said, oh my God, you're going to be on this TV show and directing these actors and stuff. When you're 40, you say, that's the dream. And then 40-year-old me was like, I'm on this TV show and I'm directing the same thing every week. I want to have a different dream. So the dream keeps changing as you evolve as an artist, because art is a fluid thing. And as filmmakers, you're constantly, changed by the events of your life, the events of people around you, the events of things that touch you, and you're inspired to tell different stories. So that particular story, was about a Lakota boy and a cavalryman at the Little Bighorn, but it actually grew out of my desperation to get out of the formulaic of episodic television and the events of 9/11 that had happened. I was like, the world's crazy. People need to talk to each other. And that's where Last Stand grew out of. So all these different things sort of converged on me as a filmmaker and an artist to create that little film.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say, I think it's, something that a lot of people are touching on, is when you have something that you're really passionate about, the proof of concept is, it's bringing that passion out and having something to show is what is going to inspire other people. And obviously that, did really well for you, and it's something that has worked very well for me. And I know a lot of other people here. So, yeah, I think it's extremely important.
Awesome.
I'm going to add just something about the short films. Everyone wants to be making short films, and we hear about proof of concept as well for for feature projects or television shows. If you're a filmmaker and you're making proof of concept or short films, I think that it's really important, because when I see a lot of these things, because people bring them to me, the proof of concept stuff they tend to be just a snippet or a segment, and I don't think that does as well for you as proof of concept of who you are as a filmmaker. If you're going to make a short, tell a full story. Yeah. Tell a story in that time period. Don't cram a feature into a short film. They're different animals, right? And so make a full-fledged story, because when I look at it or other people look at it, they're going to say, are you a storyteller? Can I tell a story from beginning to end in 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
I would say, definitely a short film does have to have a beginning, middle, and end. But for me, when I'm thinking about an idea for a short film, for me, it's more about bringing the audience into an experience, like thinking about a moment that is important and that makes a statement. There really has to be a reason why you choose that moment and why you want the audience to see that. Because it is only a short amount of time. You only have so much information to get across, but you want to leave the audience with something. So you only have that amount of time to really make them feel something. So I think that it's really you need to get very visceral in a short film, I think. You need to really bring the audience in quickly. So you need to do a lot of showing and not telling. And then it does need to wrap up at the end. Whereas a feature, when I'm thinking about writing that, there's definitely a lot more pre-planning, a lot more thinking about the beginning, the middle, the end, the hero's journey, all of those, the classic writing styles as far as like the narrative structure. But in that, I'm thinking a lot more about character development in a narrative, and how to sort of put little pieces throughout and kind of keep the audience engaged in a way that they're sort of almost solving a mystery, trying to figure out who these people are and what their motivations are. So I think, so just to recap, in like the short film, you kind of just put it all out there right away. And I kind of like to shock the audience with something. But in the feature, it's more sort of creating that build up and figuring out the ways, like the subtleties that you can put in there to keep the audience engaged, but let them know that something's coming, and let them know that there's something at the end to look forward to. So that would be my answer. Yeah.
So I know earlier we talked to Hilliard about like he doesn't chase money or he doesn't go after money. Mark, for you do have success in like finding investors, correct, for projects. So I guess talk about your strategy in appealing to investors as a filmmaker.
I think I touched on this a little bit. I guess I think it was just a matter of, like I was saying, work the circle that you have and working on getting people inspired by what it is that you're putting together. From a nuts and bolts standpoint, I mean, obviously there's a lot of specifics that go into structuring an investment. What we've done in the past that's worked for us is you set up an LLC and you're essentially selling membership shares in that LLC. The goal is to make a movie that makes money. You do want to make these people money. I think there are a lot of people who have money that they want to put in the stock market or they want to invest it somewhere. They got to put it somewhere. Some of these people. The key to it, I think, that we found is, and this is something that you touched on earlier, is what is it that they want out of it? Because, you invest in the stock market, you're putting into a company with people you don't know who are going to do whatever it is that they think they need to do in order for their company to run. But when they have a personal connection to you, and when it's something like making a movie, which is inspiring to a lot of people, we all grew up watching movies and loving movies. For those people, what is it that they want out of that? If it's a guy whose kid is looking to go to film school and he wants to shadow me as a director for a week on set, that's something that can be done. It's not necessarily a quid pro quo, which is a buzzword right now, but it is something that, if you can help them out, help them get something more out of it, that makes this a fun investment, then of course, I think it's smart to do that. Whether it's going to the film festivals, going to premieres, meeting the actors. No, but there's people who get excited about things like that, and I would get excited about that. And if I had money, and I was inspired by film, I think it would be reasonable to get involved in something that, when you do have a solid business plan and you have everything together, and you've got a good story, investors, depending on the investor, either they're interested in knowing what the story is or they just want to know what your plans are for it. Anyway, it's kind of a meandering answer, but I think that, finding a way to figure out what it is that they're looking to get out of an investment, if it's something that catches their interest and if it's something that they have the ability to invest in. You don't want to take anyone's money who doesn't have the ability to lose that money, because it's important to let them know it is possible you may not see this money ever again. And I'm very, very upfront about it. We make sure that everyone understands that we're drilling for oil, and we may not hit oil. It's possible. We may hit oil and it could be a gusher, and that's the goal. And we've been doing a lot of research on this field, and this is where we think the oil is, and we believe in that. So, yeah, I think it's appealing to the people that are in your circle and trying to expand that. I don't think that going out to people you have no connection to is the best way to start. I've never gone that direction. I know people do it all different ways. Some people who've gone out, made a short or something and inspired a ton of people and got meetings out of it and maybe got a company behind them. But my experience, especially starting out, was to go to people that I had a contact, a connection to, and start there.
Well, traditionally, thrillers, horror films, action. And there's a reason that those traditionally do well is because they tend to be less dialogue driven. And so they work on a visual level in the foreign market. So foreign audiences who are trying to read subtitles or it's going through, a big action sequence plays for them because it's not driven by English dialogue. And so with a horror film and so with a thriller, the more visual it is, the more it plays overseas. So those tend to be more commercial. That's just the basic. The thing is that for that rule, there is exceptions to every rule. You can show the small little indie drama that took off, like what's the one? My Greek wedding, my big fat Greek wedding. It's like, who would think that would be, a $200 and some odd million movie? But so the best genre is great films. Yeah. So if you have a great film, that will sell. If you want to mitigate risk, go into action, thriller, horror. Like when I was talking about Break and how it sort of straddled the line between being an art house film and an action movie. We kind of dipped into both worlds and did pretty good with it.
So Gabe, you're talking about genre. For Hilliard, I want to talk about characters because I know you love flawed characters. You love the underdog story. So talk about why, like, no matter what decade it is, those characters are always appealing to viewers.
I think if you even think about like sports movies, we kind of always root for the underdog. So like I talk about how like the type of movies that I write, I write about underdog stories because I was the underdog growing up, the black gay dude in the neighborhood. I was basically the black Pee Wee Herman of my neighborhood. Really, I really was. I was cool though. I was cool though. I was cool. Yeah, all of that. And so I think we're drawn to that. But I just want to piggyback a little bit off of what you guys were talking about, if you don't mind. I was thinking about those movies you mentioned, Gabe. I think the genres are like completely right. The first movie I ever sold was a horror movie, right? And what I learned, it's sold at AFM to 7-8 countries in 3 hours, right? But what they do at places like that, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this, the reason why those particular genres, the thriller, the horror, and the action work is because you have these buyers come in and it's playing on a screen, and they walk in and look and go, yeah, we could sell that. It's not about you need a big star. This is indie movies, by the way, right? They're looking at, does it hit all my marks? Does it do this? Does it have a woman showing a little breast? Does it do this? Swear to God, they're looking at all the shit. Still making the movie. Right, it's just playing on rotation. So there's a reason why those movies do translate. And you said it very eloquently. Totally agree. But I think underdog stories, to back to that, we all root for that. Like I was telling somebody the other day, this is like a non-biased thing that I think we all have inside of us. Like I'm a big UFC fan and like stuff like that. So you know what's up. And so naturally, I'm just keeping it real, because I'm going to keep it real, motherfucker, is we'll be watching a fight and there'll be a black guy and a white guy. Say I don't know who they are, right? And just hear me out. Sometimes there's new guys, the young guys are playing, right? And I'll be like, okay, let's see what this dude gonna do, right? So I want the brother to win. So he's winning, but he starts doing too much Mayweather showing off shit. And I'm like, knock this dude out. You know what I mean? And so I immediately start going for the underdog. It's like a natural thing in you. So I've learned no matter what I write, I've done historical, sci-fi, everything, And I always find a way to put the underdog in there. Even the horror movie I told you I sold had an underdog. It's just who you are. And the more you know who you are, the more that's going to sell. And I've said this before, and I think one of you guys were talking about it earlier, Gabe. The script that's going to sell is a script everybody tells you not to write. Every time. I said it before, and because it's true. I've interviewed probably almost 300 people on my podcast, and 99.9% of them who pivoted in some way, pivoted with the script everybody told them not to write. Every single one. You know, I broke in with the script, everybody told me not to write.
Okay. Real quick before you jump to that, one thing that I loved is you saying the underdog. As an actress, we always look for. Well, I don't know about other actresses, but I can tell you me. It's not necessarily that I look for the underdog. I look for the person who, especially roles that I look to want to read for, is someone who arrives at who they are and what they're capable of. And 9 times out of 10, that's the underdog. I guess because in life we realize that moment where it clicks to us like, okay, it's not that bad. This can happen. We can do this. And you start pumping up. And when you watch any good movie, you watch the person hit that moment where they realize it's possible. And then all of a sudden, not even the dialogue, it's the action, the looks, their eyes, that moment that you go, you got me. I'm there. It normally comes with tears. It comes with all those things where you go, I just feel good. And I've seen silent films that have just you go, oh my God, I'm so exhausted from watching this, just because you see that moment where it clicks to them. And that doesn't have to come with a big hefty price tag. Sometimes you meet someone and you go, I want to speak their words because I know that what they have is magic. I can watch them. I know what they're writing is amazing.